And I'm never a fan of the best tech being a service manager because it often doesn't work. A lot of people can fix a lot of things, but they can't manage people and tasks.
It's a different skill set.
Right, it's a different skill set. I don't need a service manager to know how to fix everything. I need them to know how to manage and make things happen.
Maintenance people aren't computer savvy. Well, my service manager was answering emails, writing POs, managing his budget, doing the payroll.
What they do when their team is not performing, they think that I just gotta work harder and pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the exact opposite. No. You have to step back and assess and address those performance issues just so that you don't work yourself to death.
I'm gonna say what we're not supposed to say. You wanna know one of the biggest challenges for the service managers? The property managers. So a leader's goal is to inspire people. The problem is, in our industry, we're getting better at it, but we promote people for skill set. Oh, he can fix a lot of things,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean he knows how to lead people.
That has nothing to do with being a manager.
Right, so then the question becomes,
Candice,
yes.
thanks for joining us.
Thank you. No, glad to be here. Thanks for having us, Adrian.
I want to start by asking you what led to STA 2.0. Tell me about the journey.
Well, if we're being completely transparent, there were two parts to it. First is evolution, right? Everything has to evolve. The other portion was feedback. You know, I've been with the association now for about to be 3 years. And, you know, it was like when I started, people wanted to tell me, but they were kind of afraid. And then I would hear like, what's up with the STA? And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but there was just so much opportunity. And so, you know, when we listen to the members and hear about some of the challenges we've had with the program in the past, it was really the inspiration like, okay, we don't need to just enhance the program. We need to rebrand the program. We need to revamp the program, and we need to regain the trust of all of the members that have supported the program in the past.
So that's kind of an amazing journey. You heard that, you know, certain things weren't maybe necessary up to what was expected as far as outcomes, results, and you just said, okay, we're going to redo the whole thing. And here we are today.
Correct.
Today was an amazing turnout, amazing event. I'm super impressed with all of the graduates. Were future graduates, I should say. They're graduating this month in June. I had the opportunity to speak with a few of them, and you know, they asked me about my experience in, you know, multifamily. How did I get into? And there was a gentleman that stopped by and said, "Who's gonna show me like how the three-way switch operates?" And one of them raised the hand, and you know, he went and he did the whole presentation. I was looking at him, extremely confident. Mm-hmm. He wasn't nervous. He was natural. And I think he's like, you know, his early 20s.
Oh, wow.
He's very young. I didn't ask him, you know, the age, but I was extremely impressed because, you know, like even something that might sound like so simple as a three-way switch, for many it's not that simple. Like they just don't know. You know, they had to guess. And he had the confidence, you know, took that gentleman to the panel. They showed him how everything works. So that's quite remarkable. I'm seeing that, you know, they get here the type of training, like the knowledge, not just the knowledge that's actually needed, that's applicable in a field. Because, you know, you basically build the whole entire mock-up here.
Yes, we are very fortunate. So working for the association, one of the opportunities that our team, workforce development team here identified was that we weren't using our resources enough. All jokes aside, there was an STA board and it was almost dormant. That wasn't their fault. It's like it's time to reawaken them. Not only that, but we have access to industry experts at our fingertips. We work with all of the big players for owner-manager companies. So why would we not use the experts to see how we could add value to our training experience and meet their needs? And so we really leaned on our STA board for not only feedback, suggestions, donations, but here's the reality. It's great to introduce people to careers in maintenance, but we need to make sure that the training matches the caliber of student that we're now looking to recruit. The revolution or revamp of STA 2.0 really was a group effort, but smart people know what they don't know. I know a little bit about maintenance, and honestly, Boris taught me a lot about maintenance. But, I'm not the expert. And so if it's not my field, why wouldn't I go to the people who know what to do so that I can let them show us what to do? And that's what we did. One thing I can say in our industry is that there are a lot of egos, right? Which is not a bad thing. But when you're able to throw that ego away, you'd be surprised. Like, the information's at your fingertips. It's all about connecting with the right people.
Boris, what are your thoughts on STA 2.0?
Oh, 2.0. So I was one of those folks that were in the air about things we could change. So
He was.
not just talking about, I want to be part of the change. So having a background in training, I'm a fan of Candice, number one, and of MMH on a whole and STA, because any way to give back to the community that make me who I am today, as far as it comes to property management and maintenance, I'm all for it. So I'm all about education and really helping the future technicians of tomorrow develop. So this was like a great opportunity for me. It's just like a dream come true to be part of something this good, and knowing that it could be that much better going forward. So STA has just been it's just seeing it unfold and grow to what it is today. It's just heartwarming and makes me feel good about what I do and what I'm a part of.
What's your level of involvement with STA?
Well, sometimes a lot. Sometimes when I have the free time, so I'll come by, talk to students, interviewing, kind of giving them, outlook or expectation of what it is being out in the field, what hiring managers look for in the future technicians, and just giving them real world experience through words in some cases. Some of the folks that they see and come through and then they'll go work for, some of those folks also mention, oh, I know Boris. So they hear that it's not just, I'm just not talking, this is real life scenarios that you're going through. And just really being able to touch something and have it, hot water come through it, have electricity go through it, is really the hands-on. That's the STA, just, oh man. And that's the involvement of me. That's helping with the design, some of the little tweaks we need to do, supplying, a fridge here, microwave, a dishwasher, whatever I can spare to really help the students get more real life hands-on training. It's the least I could do. So my company is in full support of me supporting this, and I thank David S. Brown for that. But the STA is a very, soft spot for me.
I have to interject because Boris is being modest. So yeah, his contribution a lot when he can, not necessarily. For me, when I look at contribution, I look at impact. So Boris, you're thinking about the mechanics, the hot water, I get all of that. But Boris came to me 2 years ago and he made a joke. He said, I see the LTA all the time. I saw them on Cinco de Mayo with their hats. When is the STA going to be on LinkedIn?
I didn't say
right.
those words.
He was right. Candice, you should try this. You should try to partner here. And so I think your contribution probably spans beyond what you know. Some of it may even come in the form of small sarcasm or jokes, but we listen. And so Boris has been an amazing support. Not only that, he shows up. And your students need to see that, someone who shows up. And what we have learned is that no matter how excellent our instructors are, everyone relates with someone differently. I may relate to you. Christina may relate to Steven. I'm making that up. But the point is that the more outside people we can get to touch the next generation, someone's going to resonate with Boris's story. Which is inspiring. So I just did not want to downplay his contribution. It was probably bigger than he knows. Plus, he can give me a hard time, and then it just makes me on the low, yeah, he's right, let me do it.
What would you say was the most challenging situation, and maybe you have a particular story in building 2.0?
In building?
Yeah, reinventing the program.
The rebranding. Full transparency rebranding. No, that's the hardest part. Meaning the program had great bones. We got off to a great start, established in 2017 during COVID. Like most businesses, we suffered. And so what happened is that the quality of student declined. And so then there was a period where reputation was hurt. Well, you understand how reputation management goes. You can't have anything without trust. And so the hardest part is the physical part's easy. That's a task. Not to say that, but I have a little bit of experience. We can delegate, we can tap into resources. The hardest part is that the workforce development team, which is me, Christina, Kaj, and Greg, the conversations, I cannot tell you how many one-on-one meetings I've had to have with VPs of maintenance, directors of operations. Just had one yesterday to explain to them the value of the program and that we're not the same that we were 4 years ago. And again, the program was never bad, but like I know that you have a couple bad hires and reputation. And then it's literally, so one of the things that our team worked on was I took my knowledge from the community and said, okay, I've had to rebrand the community. It's not easy, but how do we rebrand? And so as silly as it sounds, I thought how do you think new? What's new? What's next level? And I thought about iPhone and they drop a new version. And so I was like, service training, apprenticeship is kind of long. And I literally remember I was like, oh, STA 2.0. And I threw it at, one of our team members, Christina, and she looked at me first, and then she was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, that's it. And so that was really the hardest part is the reputation management, rebranding, putting the proof in the pudding, putting the money where our mouth is. You and the public will see the new facility and all this. On the back end, the biggest changes came from the policies, procedures, engagement. I mean, gosh, there's so much that goes into developing a workforce development program, down to liability waivers, uniform policies, engagement emails once they're hired, 15-day check-ins, 30-day check-ins. And so we literally recreated all of that from scratch, as well as our website.
That was quite a challenge.
Yeah.
But look at the results.
Yeah, no, nothing short of impressive, and kudos to all of you here. Everybody was in a room, students, you, your team, and also the sponsors, those that actually supported making it happen.
And our board.
You included, companies like yours included, all on a supporting side. That wouldn't be possible without you all. Now, I want to ask you, how do you see the future of the training academy in context of what we discussed earlier on our first panel, technology, AI, coming into place, and then still, you still gotta turn a wrench, you still gotta replace a faucet, you still gotta replace a stem. How do you see that evolving?
So I see it evolving in something she said. So you got to leverage your talent that you have around you. So tap into your SMEs and let them come in and bring in some of that technology they're currently using in the field today, so it's relevant. And then I see this growing where we're going to outgrow the space, where we have to have a larger one, because the void that's in the industry, we're going to need more than 14 students. This is a great start, but we know this is not the end. I foresee a room where we can probably put out 30, 40, 50, 100 team members, in different frequencies, and maybe have them starting at different times so we can have this back-to-back graduation. So I'm going to see when we need adjunct instructors, expertise from different commercial, residential, hospitality, and kind of blend it all, because it's all about customer service. But at the same time, we have to do some mechanical and we have to do some technology. Learning more about AI and how we can use it to our benefit. It's going to happen. It has to happen. So I think it's just, maybe we're at 2.0 now, but I see 3.2, 4.6. So we can just keep getting updates. As things change, we're going to update the curriculum to match that. So we're always on the cutting edge of things, moving away from torching, using all press fittings, push fittings, and so forth. So those type of things are really going to be big in the market, and we're going to make sure we're on top of it.
Mm-hmm. And I have to, because one of the reasons Boris was so instrumental in all of this is not just because of his background in maintenance. It is rare to find someone with a background in maintenance who's an actual trainer. And so he has been a respected trainer in our industry for years. Not only did he, oversee training, but he ran and partially created a training facility that was huge, and it was effective. And I personally saw it and took classes, and he was very good instructor. I like to make fun of him because I took a test. I got a 99 on my maintenance test, and he would not let me take it again. I wanted 100. Either way, it's what some people don't understand is just because you do something doesn't mean you can teach it.
Correct.
So the component that Boris brought to our board was, yes, the maintenance, but there's a lot of people that know maintenance, but the fact that he understands training, development, facilities, it really made him invaluable. So again, grateful to have him here, but I have to point out the fact that he is a training specialist. He has trained probably hundreds of maintenance technicians in the state.
I'm curious, Candice. We, generally speaking, in the industry and even outside of multifamily, struggle with finding the talent, getting individuals to enroll into the program. How hard was it, to do this outreach? Tell me about some challenges, but not just about the challenges. I like to hear your success stories. Why? Because I think, you're building a path for those in property management companies to follow into your footsteps. You have enough experience right now that you could speak to the world, and there's valuable lessons out there for them to learn from you. So would you share some?
Absolutely. And, I say, please don't judge me because I am a creative marketer, right? And so here's how I looked at it. My background's in multifamily. I'm used to filling apartments. Same premise. I need to fill a class. And so one of the first things we did was started building relationships with the high schools. We were doing high school presentations. Actually, Boris has been to one of them as well. And we do those quite often. But then we had to really get creative. To be honest, at one point we had low enrollment. I looked at Christina, again, who's on our team, and I said, we need to go outside. And we went outside. We went to apartment communities. We went to pizza shops. We went to nail shops. We built relationships. I am fortunate enough to have lovely daughters, and they're also very pretty daughters. And all jokes aside, we're low for a class. Hey, would you like to earn a little something to work for the day? It's your day off. I would take them the flyers. Go to the barbershops. It was started as a grassroots effort because we didn't have a budget. And then what we did is as we were able to build our base, we then took our base and turned them into ambassadors, which sounds small, but we basically, when you come into the STA, we tell them, I hope you know that when you leave here, you're not representing something much bigger than you. Programs like this don't last unless we have good people like you. So we tapped into our student base. We have them as brand ambassadors. You probably saw a lot of our past students today. Yeah, that was really nice. They're working in the field now. And then our largest source of recruitment has been a single e-blast. So we'll take companies that are members and we'll say, hey, demographic wise, you have 800 apartment homes here and it's only in a 4-mile radius of our training center. Will you send an e-blast? And of course, we create the e-blast and the graphic to your residents. One e-blast fills an entire class. Because what happens is then the families go say, oh, my son's not doing anything. You know what? My grandson needs a job. And then the word starts to spread. And the other thing we tried was boosted Facebook posts, which did work. But we are very creative. I'll be very honest. Don't judge me. But Boris knows this. I will talk you into something. Let's talk. And so this morning I had to go into Rite Aid and I looked in and I said, okay, it looks like, and I said, it's a store closing. And she said, yes. I said, when is the store closing? And I started recruiting the people at the counter because they're not going to have a job as of August 5th. No, really. And gave them the website. Actually told them about both of our training programs. They said they're going to share it with all of the team. But just whenever opportunity presents itself, spreading the word, becoming something, like becoming your own brand ambassador, it wasn't easy, but to see our class size increase and triple in size has been quite rewarding.
I love every single word of it. People just so much, I think, underestimate the hustle, the real hustle. The fact that, you get off your chair and you go out there and you hustle. Like you really talk to people. You actually take action, where most, I think, imagine in a bubble or, behind the desk, imagine certain amazing things, saving graces for us to resolve various problems like labor shortages, but they don't think that, hey, maybe that next piece is not there. You could strategize all day long, but strategy without execution is zero. It means nothing. And I love that you're saying this and it's on camera, because I hope that others get inspired too, to actually understand what it takes to find good candidates in your situation, good workers. Like you just go out there. It's not like back in the day waiting for them to, break down the door. You just put an ad in a newspaper. The tables have turned. Nowadays it's the other way around. You have to go where they live, whether it's physically or virtually on, you mentioned Facebook and other networks. You have to meet them where they at. You can't just be sitting and hoping that you have this amazing thing going on and people will just there's way too much competition out there for you to have the luxury to do nothing, to just put something out there and to post and pray. Boris, soft skills. What are your thoughts on soft skills when it comes to maintenance and to have those trained in a formal environment, not just to say, well, so-and-so has a high EQ. And that's a great statement. Some people have that, but also things like that could be trained.
Right.
You're not just looking for someone that already has it. You could look for people and actually spend the time, create programs and training them. So what are your thoughts on?
It's funny you ask that question because this is something I've pushed for many, many years, because it's one thing to learn how to fix something, but it's another thing to learn how to talk, deal with people. We're in the industry of, customer service. And customer service is not, I'm going to fix your garbage disposal, but I'm going to talk to you any which way. No. You're entering someone's home. This is their livelihood. This is the way they come to be at peace and relax. So you have to treat it with respect. Leave it better than you found it. Make sure you're addressing that person the right way. Make sure you present yourself the right way. Make sure you're not leaving a mess when you make it clean. It's just all these things. And a lot of people didn't think that was necessary, but I'm like, it's absolutely necessary because everything is a survey these days. So you have to think about what you say also represents you. It's not always, did you fix it right the first time? You might have made a mistake, but how you were as a person and how you communicate to that resident, they're going to give you a second chance. But if you don't do it the right way and you don't communicate very well, you might not get that second chance. So I think the soft skills are critical. And then eventually you're going to get into a role where you're managing people and personalities. So that soft skills become more critical because now you're dealing with so many different personalities and so many different things that's going to happen. Bob had an issue at home. This person, had a newborn. They're going to be gone for what? It's all these things that's going to come into play and all different hats that you have to wear. It's not just about fixing. Now you're in a leadership role where you have to understand people and their perspective and really know how to work with that. So I love it.
What are your thoughts, or tell me, what's the Service Training Academy doing to train soft skills?
Well, humbly, my background as a property manager is very helpful in this area because I understand the impact of maintenance. Leasing might bring them in, but maintenance keeps them here. And so, I always was the property manager where you could knock on the door and scream, maintenance! I always empowered my team to feel like service professionals. They were service teams. Service manager was the equivalent of me in my eyes. On the service side, he wrote his own budget, he managed his own everything. And so when you're thinking of maintenance, which is actually one of the challenges I see in our industry, the perception, I don't see maintenance traditionally as maintenance. I see them as service professionals. And so that is the mindset that we encourage and the kind of soft skills that we're introducing them to now that we've integrated into the program: conflict resolution, communication for success, polish and professionalism, and then of course what we call put the serve back in service, which is also not just customer service for property management, but understanding the 6 basic human service needs universally. Because here's the reality, maintenance is not just a job, it's a real career, but everything starts with service. I can mess up all day, but if I'm smiling and have been good to you the entire time, you're going to be okay with it.
Yeah,
But
mistakes happen.
yeah,
People forgive if they understand.
Yeah.
And if you treat them with respect.
Exactly.
And if you're nice to them. Boris, we as an industry don't have a formalized training for service managers. In other words, let's just say we have CAMT, everybody knows that, to become a certified apartment technician.
Yeah.
However, we have the CAM, and we have the other designation with IRM, which is ARM.
Right.
Accredited residential manager.
Correct.
Now, we don't have anything for service managers, and Candice mentioned here, rightly so, that she looked at her service manager as like somebody that co-manages with her, not like her inferior, someone that she looked down to. She looked at that person to co-manage, like to partner, and just run the property together. But we typically look at, the highest performing service technician at the site. Service manager gave notice or got fired, and there's an open position, and we're looking at the highest performing person in a team, and we hand them a bunch of keys and we say, good luck, I hope you're gonna do well. And to me, it's so crazy. It's like I refuse to settle for this, that we will hand keys to a 60, 70, 80 million dollar asset to someone with zero training.
Right.
It's just like you would go to invest your hard-earned money, and you go to like a money manager, a person that does helps with investments, and if you ask him, could you tell me about your experience? What's your portfolio? Well, it's just my first day here.
Right.
But I never worked in this position, but it's just my first day. But I'm gonna do great for you. Imagine how would that make you feel? And then we hand these keys to tens of $millions worth of real estate to someone and say, wish them good luck, basically. So any thoughts here?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the learning gaps that are out there, and I see that in STA 2.5. So I'm always looking at what it can be. So I think that's where some of the SMEs that we have on the board really come in and help teach and foster that type of training. So on the sites that we have in my company, the service manager do their variance report with the property manager. They do their budget, review their budget with them, because we want them to be partners in making sure this budget is followed and letting us know what's going on. Why is this, why is this number here? Why is it not there? And we're really having these conversations to understand how their day or their life works and looks like. So we're partners. It's not, I never look down on people. I talk to everyone on an even level. I respect everyone. So we want them to ask questions. That's how we're going to develop them to take that next step to be a regional or, this, even if you have a big site where you have 1,000 units, you're going to have to learn these things. So I think this starts early. So maybe we start those classes where they're learning the next step from, okay, now you have a good tech, but what makes you a manager? And I'm never a fan of the best tech being a service manager, because it often doesn't work. A lot of people can fix a lot of things, but they can't manage people and tasks.
It's a different skill set.
Right, it's a different skill set. So I think a lot of times a lot of companies make that mistake out of tenure and the best technician, but I don't need a service manager to know how to fix everything. I need them to know how to manage and make things happen. So you're looking for those traits, and I think a lot of people are learning that lesson now. But if we can enhance it and help ensure that you're moving the right person in the right role, I think that's where 2.5 is going to be really helpful.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on having a service manager designation, like a program?
Oh, I'm laughing now. In my
a
mind.
program written to.
Yeah. So I'm laughing because my boss, Adam Skolnick, the visionary, he's been on my case for about 6 months about pretty much exactly that. So yes, but I'd like to speak to you on Boris's point, because the concern doesn't really lie as much in the designation, right? And I'm not devaluing designations. Clearly, I have all of them, right? But the reality is that you don't manage people, you manage tasks. Right? So a leader's goal is to inspire people. The problem is, in our industry, we're getting better at it, but we promote people for skill set. Oh, he can fix a lot of things,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean he knows how to lead people.
That has nothing to do with being a manager.
Right. So then the question becomes, do we really need a separate designation for service managers, or do we need to start understanding that our service managers deserve leadership training too? They're often
sure do.
excluded. And so what we're really talking about here is leadership skills.
Yeah.
Because by the time they're promoted, they have the technical skills. One of the visions that I have personally is I'd love to introduce a class called the Evolving Service Manager. Because it is not what people think that, maintenance people aren't computer savvy.
No,
Well,
not
the service manager was answering emails, writing POs, managing his budget, doing the payroll, all of those things as well. And so there has been a lot of evolution in that space. But because we have 5 generations in the workplace, I'd love to be able to kind of integrate that into some of what we're doing now so that we can start building for the future. So I don't know if we need something specific for like a service manager or designation, but I think that we need to start sending our service managers to leadership training. Just because you can fix something does not mean that you are equipped to lead people. Like you said, they're 2 different skill sets.
It's a great start, definitely, to expose them to leadership training, but I'm for something that's going even beyond that, adding more structure to something that's, more structure.
Right.
When you think about the daily tasks, right, service manager does on a daily basis, managing, their vendors, their budget, their service requests, their people, managing time management. There's certain types of management. I think there could be curriculum that could be built around that to teach them how to do it. I've seen over and over again, like the most common situation that I've seen is folks that got promoted from being a top performing, top producing tech to a service manager. And what they do when their team is not performing, they think that I just got to work harder and pick up the slack.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the exact opposite. No. You have to step back and assess and address those performance issues just so that you don't work yourself to death. That's not a badge of honor to pick up the slack for everyone. It's unhealthy, and it's actually not right to you, first of all, right? To do the work of others that for whatever reason they're not capable to perform. So I think of more of a structure, like how to, you take the daily tasks, not just daily, but daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, an annual task, and you see what that entails, and then write a program that's actually teaching them how to do it.
No, I like that
how to
idea.
execute.
Streamlining processes.
Yes.
Essentially
Yes.
is what you're talking about. I'm going to say what we're not supposed to say. You want to know one of the biggest challenges for the service managers? The property managers.
Yes.
And I know we're not supposed to talk about it. I was fortunate enough to be kind of like raised up at an organization where I was taught to look at the service manager as, my equivalent, as like you said, the co-managing the situation, but that is not always the case. And sometimes I see property managers can sometimes hinder service managers' growth. Because the same thing, we're promoting property managers based on skill set. We don't require property managers often to have a lot of physical asset knowledge. So how much of a resource can we be to our service managers if we don't understand the asset? And this is not me coming for property managers. I love my property managers.
Yes,
right?
we all do.
Yes, we do. But the reality is that, we need to see a shift in mindset on that side, because even if we design something, because I love what you're saying, I'm big on structure and processes, but if we don't have a shift in mindset from the property managers where we're going to empower and not just say the service managers. When I started at my last community, the service manager came up to me to ask me to spend $46. And he was a smart guy, but this is what he had been
He was trained.
Yeah.
He was trained. He was
that's the
trained.
regime he
No,
was
he,
under.
he wasn't trained. He was conditioned
Right.
into doing that.
Right.
That's the difference. He wasn't trained. He was conditioned into doing that.
Yeah. It made me sad though.
Yeah, it's sad. Sad state of affairs. At the same time, I had to say, there's more to it. Young, in a way, they're like new, a Greens community manager just promoted. Mm-hmm. They're seeing service manager not knowing how to do certain things,
Right.
and the same thing as we talked about the service manager. They're thinking that the way to fix it is that they step in and pick up the slack. And they do that over and over again. It becomes part of their job, which is again unhealthy. I don't think it's completely counterproductive. In time, they become resentful towards service managers, and they develop this mindset thinking like, I do all of this because these people are incapable. And they're not really thinking that the origins of what it is today were nobody really took the time
Right.
to show them. and then instead like showing them, we just did it for them. It's not by accident, that's saying that you shouldn't really hand over fish to people. You should teach them how to fish.
Right.
Because if you're gonna hand them a fish, they're gonna come back for another fish always. But if you're gonna teach them how to fish, they're gonna fish for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
That's what you're talking about, empowerment. Like, how do you empower? How do you enable them to be the best that they could be? To be a better professional.
And sometimes I think the company itself hinders that growth, because the money they want to give you to pay a technician, you're going to get the greenest technician, always. So if you have a big asset, 800, and all the technicians are green except you, it's going to make your life miserable. Now you feel like I'm doing all the work and they're doing nothing. So, and then that's saying, and it becomes this whole convoluted process. But I think companies have to understand that to get a good technician, sometimes you have to pay here. And that pay is going to pay you back, because now you have less go backs. You have better customer service. They're satisfied. So it pays you back, but not everybody looks and really assess their asset to see what type of technician they need for this site. Now, if it's brand new and everything is on the warranty, yes, a couple of green technicians won't hurt, because they're going to make a phone call. But when you want to go in and actually fix something, that's going to be more challenging when you need more seasoned individual. And you can bring in a green one, partner with someone, they have a coach, and then kind of train them and grow them that way. I think that works best. But the ownership just has to realize that.
You get what you pay for.
Always.
You don't want to say it that way, because we all understand budgets, but we have to be competitive with salaries. And not only that, to Boris's point, I love what you said, because I just need someone who can do this. No. Like, when you're hiring for maintenance, you have to look at the community, match it with the community challenges. If I have somebody, community with a ton of plumbing concerns, well, I want somebody who's a little stronger in plumbing, even if he's green, but wherever his experience is. We just have to start thinking differently. And, it's always bad when you say things and people are like, one thing about our industry, and I love our industry, is we are kind of like this elite club, but we're going to have to humble ourselves. We need people.
We do.
We need people.
More than any other time in our history. Looking forward now, looking towards the future. Boris, what are some things that excite you about the future of our industry, and what the future holds for us?
The excitement is the availability of positions and directions this can go into. And I tell people, once you learn maintenance, there's so many directions you can take it. So you start here, but where you finish is entirely up to you, because the education is there. You just have to apply yourself. I see more housing being necessary, because I think just the way industry is going, we're trying to build more things closer to where people work. And so from there, you're going to see these cities really get condensed, and high-rise is going to become a thing again. And we're trying to do green and all this other stuff. So the technology is going to change. You're looking at EVs. That's going to really change the way we build our communities. All these green initiatives are going to, the money we have to save as far as energy costs and solar and all these different things that's going to have to come online to really offset the operational costs and the affordability of the apartment. We're going to have to find better ways to do it. So I think the market is going to open in so many different ways that we didn't fathom or think that could be possible for maintenance. It's just unlimited. And I was thinking, once you start in this, if you don't make money doing this, you don't want to. It's impossible to not have a job if you're any good at maintenance.
Candice, what excites you about the future?
Well, I am a passionate initiator. So what does that mean? What excites me about the future is that I do better with someone says that can't happen, and then I feel like, yes, it can. Let's make it happen. So what excites me about the future, as corny as this may sound, is just possibility. Like, meaning, they tell you, how do you rent apartments? This is why I used to tell my team, even, going to place 60% vacancy, crazy, right? Or 60% occupied. You'll say, well, you can only run them one at a time. And so what I'm learning in this space, or workforce development, or just about maintenance and everything that's going on, one at a time. So what excites me about the future is that all this one at a time bricklaying in like 10 years, we're going to have graduates who are not just service managers, who are regionals, who are coming back to help inspire the next
Right.
generation. So I guess what inspires me is the possibility of legacy. Honestly, my boss is, he is not the guy to come talk, but this is his brainchild. And I told him, this is your legacy. There are a lot of associations, great places, but no one does workforce development or actually has a full workforce team to do this. And so to know that we're able to impact, and let's also be honest, we're in Baltimore. We need this
Right.
here. Some of the guys you see in our class, guys or women, excuse me, this is the best thing that happened to them.
I wanted to say that I remember our very first conversation, and then one of the things that I remember up to this day, and it stuck with me, it was how you basically in your classes, you actually taught your students that there's a certain level of expectation when it comes to behavior. Like you have to, when it comes to like being a professional, right? Because they didn't have that knowledge, right? They didn't have that knowledge from their, from their home, from their circle. And it's very powerful, because I think our society actually needs so much more of these conversations to say like, this is a real issue. With us like turning our heads, the other way and just pretending that the issue does not exist, it doesn't solve the problem. It only makes the problems worse. So we need so many more people and voices like you to actually speak the truth and actually do something about it, not just speaking. Because probably there's a lot more out there that they're just speaking. But then when it comes to like what you said, this goes very deep. It hits very, very hard. This is probably the best thing that happened to them. We shouldn't have that situation, but we should be striving to like amplify, to find ways to scale this and make the life better for so many more that actually need it. And actually they don't know that they have a chance out of a bad life, a life that that doesn't end up well, that they can't live well. There's actually opportunities out there.
STA in every state. That would be the goal.
Yeah. I mean, I would love it because you hit on something that I tell STA, LTA, I'm not special. You can do everything I can do. And when I tell you the number of people that have like, nobody ever told me that before. It actually
powerful.
Yeah. You, or even honestly, it's a lot of work behind this. Then you'll get a text and it'll just say, thank you for changing my life. I never thought. And it's, again, as silly and cliche as it sounds, often these are populations that even on the other side, I had a guy got 2 job offers. Now this was on the leasing side. And I kind of was encouraging him to go with the first one. And he looked at me and he said, Candice, I'll be the first one to make $50,000 in my entire family. Like, this is a life changer for me. And it put things in perspective to me, like, wow, like, even at his young age, he's not just doing this for himself, he's doing this for his family, for the people around him. And so, we all need somebody, like we were saying earlier, someone who gave us a chance, someone who believed in us. And, one of the best parts, I think, of the STA is working with populations that often didn't think they could do as much as they did.
But they need that spark. They need a spark. Like if you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And then you could be like that for your entire life. But if someone actually takes the time and makes the effort to tell you that there's so much more out there for you, and actually inspire you to try, to see that actually that could become reality, your new reality. It makes all the difference in the world. And making a difference starts with each of us. And if we want the change, we have to become the change.
There you go.
There's no way around.
Well,
There's no around.
You don't know.
You can't demand change from others. You can't just you can't just do nothing.
You have to
and
be the
just
change
demand.
you want to see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you don't know
become
your
it.
impact.
Become it. But the impact, it's incredible. So this is an incredible, very powerful statement, and I'm fortunate to to be able to capture it on video, so we could put it out there with the world, so others could understand the impact that goes way beyond ribbon cutting and like celebratory stuff, which, by the way, they're very well earned. They're not just a photo op. The people have been working very hard to get to this point, and it was an amazing ceremony. But there's so much more to it, right? There's so much more behind it. Any final thoughts?
I wish everyone could be here to see the whole lab and what they've created here. So it's, if I could describe it, it's a complete apartment. We have labs that plumbing fixtures that work. We have electrical stations that work. It's just real life. We have actual HVAC units, tubs, so forth. So STA is here to stay, and it'll just keep getting better.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much for having us,
Thank
Adrian.
you, Adrian.
Yes.
Thank you.